Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland. Welcome to ESVN. We just interviewed Arian Foster on this channel. If you have not listened to it yet or watched it, what are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. We've passed 10K. YouTube.com/ESVN show. Put on push notifications. Rate us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify podcasts. Hello to my co-host, my producer, and my buddy, Bradley Alsop.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wow, what a week last week.
Yes, what a week. It was
Arian
really
Foster
fun.
on the show. 4,000 views on our stream, the most we've ever gotten. So keep cooking those books, folks.
Yes.
Jack it up.
Yes, and like this stream.
Like
if you
this
could.
stream, like that
jacks
stream.
it up.
Yeah.
We're all into getting jacked
Jack
up
us
here.
up.
Like, isn't that, what was that old ESPN segment?
Jacked up.
You just got, jacked up.
It's jacked up. I'm pretty sure it's jacked up, right?
Is it jacked up?
Yeah, hold on.
Chat will tell us.
I'll look it up. But
it was essentially football plays where people got concussions, and back in the day, that was celebrated by the minds over at ESPN. Yeah, get us jacked up, but minus the concussion.
Minus the brain damage.
In the other sense of the word, of the homonym, of the entendre, whatever you'd like to call it. Yeah, that was really great. We're gonna try to get some more guests on the program. You know, that just requires like effort. So I haven't been doing that, but I'm gonna keep trying. Hopefully we get someone for fantasy football, like a real expert, as opposed to, you know, me pontificating about it. Although, you know, I'm in the TYT fantasy league still somehow. I'm not fucking leaving. And I won last year. I won a few years before that. And I've only been in it for like 5 or 6 years. We'll see what I can do this year.
That would be the reason you might get removed. Nothing else.
Nothing else. But yeah, I still got a lot of great friends over there, and I'm gonna go for the three-peat at some point this year. Although it's not really a three-peat because it's not consecutive, but either way, whatever. I'm gonna go
a non-contiguous three-peat.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at fantasy football. And there was a very low stakes league with the This Is a Revolution guys, which I won. And Jason is actually sending me some free This Is Revolution merch over to the studio. I won that this year, so I should be getting that in the next week or so, which I'm very pumped about.
Perks of being a winner.
There you go. But let's get right into it here. I will also say that I am very excited for football season. I don't know if you watched any of the preseason Hall of Fame game, but that's how much of a psycho I am. I wanted to see a little bit of Zachy Wilson and how he progressed. Seems like some of the same problems.
What do you know?
He can hit the bomb that Aaron Rodgers calls for him, but he cannot really run the offense in these kind of intermediate ways. And maybe last season, just based on my anger at the Jets' dysfunction, maybe I overlooked some of those more rudimentary elements, but at the same time, like, everything's looking good in Jets land as of right now.
It was good to have two sides.
Starts.
It was good to have two sides of the coin, though, there, because I was despondent even prior to them faring more poorly. So
yes,
it was good to at least have one optimist in the room, or at least one realist in the sense of from the business perspective of how they were treating the guy, as opposed to how I literally was like, he is maybe the worst player I've ever seen in football.
He still has that cannon. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers can teach him, there's still hope. I think
for
hopefully, Zachy, as we call him in my household.
I think hopefully he'll have some. He'll be able to learn a little bit under the tutelage of Rodgers. I think if there's going to be anybody who might be able to get something out of a guy who with a creative but kind of reckless passer with a good arm, it hopefully could be Aaron Rodgers. So
it's his childhood hero. I mean,
right, exactly. There's some already some the desire to be a protege, so to speak, anyway. So
yeah, and he has that backyard element that
he does. That's really, I think, what drew the Jets to him in the first place.
But like, Rodgers has the backyard element and also the greatest touchdown to interception ratio, I think, in the history.
He just happens to be he happens to possess Zach Wilson's, or did in his younger years, Zach Wilson's daring, but also Aaron Rodgers is like being Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but people forget his first season. Rodgers did not look the way he
No,
did
it's true.
when
It
he
is
went
true.
on that
Yeah.
run. I saw this sidearm pass of Jordan Love's in practice. Whoo, baby!
I'm excited to see
I'm
what.
starting to get buy into to Jordan Love.
Maybe we'll do something like teams we're excited for or whatever, something like that. Maybe not like the ones that we've obviously would be excited for in terms of like a segment we can do before the season starts as one of our preview things, and because it just reminds me because Packers are definitely up there.
Yeah.
Because because I'm with you there. I think they're going to be exciting, but also I think people are writing them off a little too quickly.
I'm gonna pick them to win the division.
That's
gonna be
a
my...
fun. That's an interesting pick. I like that.
Yeah.
Because we're fading the Lions on this podcast, unfortunately.
A little bit. The hype is just too much. Although once we get to our NFL rookies with fantasy upside element, a Lions player or two may be featured. Tater Tot writes in, I listened to the CBS Fantasy Football Today podcast. Those guys are very knowledgeable. Maybe one of them would come on. Tater Tot, let me know. Is Dan Schneier on that CBS podcast? Because I am internet friends with Dan Schneier, and maybe he would come on. But I have some other, people I've met through social media and tweeting about sports all the time.
If it's the Fantasy Football Today, it looks like it's Adam Iser, Dave Richard, Jamie Eisenberg, and Heath Cummings. There might be maybe he is there as well.
I know Dan does some CBS fantasy contributions, but it might be a different podcast.
Right.
Regardless, let's talk about the big news from over the weekend here, which is that the U.S. women's national soccer team, which was the heavy favorite to win the World Cup, they've been eliminated. They lost in the round of 16 in penalties to Sweden.
In absolutely gut-wrenching fashion.
And the moment that's being celebrated right now by the Patriots on social media on the right is Megan Rapinoe. I literally never get it right.
I believe it's Rapinoe.
Rapinoe, who is a prominent LGBTQ plus activist, has been very supportive of trans people, which I love as a cis woman in sports. That's really important to combating so much of the right-wing narratives. I mean, and she's been dominant for years and part of these multiple this dynasty of the U.S. women's national team.
She's a really awesome...
She's retiring after this period.
Right. Yeah. This was her last World Cup. But she's, I think, in her mid-30s, which is, usually the kind of dawning age for soccer players. She's a really amazing person, which I don't think any of the listeners of the show would be surprised to hear, because beyond her... visibility as an LGBTQ woman, her relationship with other, WNBA legend Sue Bird, her advocacy on that front for trans women in sports, as well as her labor leadership in advocating for equal pay and receiving and being integral in the labor fight to have the USWNT make equal pay to the USMNT. To say nothing of also her being one of the leaders in before Colin Kaepernick made the decision to kneel for the national anthem, Megan Rapinoe did.
Yeah.
So she is really like a trailblazer and also a fantastic moral presence and moral arbiter in this country. To me, we'll get to this obviously, she's one of our greatest patriots.
100%. She's juiced as much as she can out of her platform for in terms of justice, right? Like, she's done everything that you can ask, I think, of an athlete using their platform for these kinds of social issues. And naturally, it means that the right wing can't stand her. She missed a penalty kick. It was one of it was a complete rarity because she's been pretty dominant on that front. But there had been signs that the U.S. women's national team wasn't really in the same space that it had been in the World Cups prior. They struggled a little bit in the opening rounds, and there were, these foaming at the mouth conservatives excited to see Rapinoe and the other women representing their country lose. Let's take a look at some of the reactions on social media. This was Donald Trump truthing away over on Truth Social, his blog, essentially. I don't even know who uses it other than this guy, saying, "The shocking and totally unexpected loss by the U.S. women's soccer team to Sweden is fully emblematic of what is happening to our once great nation under crooked Joe Biden. Many of our players were openly hostile to America. No other country behaved in such a manner, or even close. Woke equals failure. Nice shot, Megan. The USA is going to hell." Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah.
The USA is going to hell? Okay, well.
3 exclamation points, MAGA.
MAGA. Got you. Make America great again. What, but we're going to hell?
So I don't know.
That sounds irredeemable. I'm not sure about that. I mean, he's pissed because Rapinoe did not go to the White House after the team won in 2019, and she hates Trump. Is open about it. Good for her.
I wish we would get some real like soccer analysis from Trump and do it. It's like the midfield.
Yeah. I mean,
midfield is terrible.
The hypocrisy here is just so brazen. Let's pull up this tweet from Team USA.
Team USA.
Team USA. I'm not even joking about that. This is how they identify on social media. This pro-Trump account. They call themselves Team USA, and these people who just love America so much tweeted, "Who else is glad that the woke U.S. soccer team, along with anti-American activist Megan Rapinoe, got eliminated from the World Cup today?" Sounds like all of you guys are really happy about that. And there was more. Charlie Kirk, Benny Johnson, all those guys were celebrating this kind of thing, sitting on their asses on the couch, being critical of women just because they are somewhat open on social issues and the fact that they have been advocating for equal pay. Benny Johnson said, "Breaking woke U.S. women's soccer humiliation. After winning back-to-back World Cups, the heavily favored Team USA has been eliminated by Sweden in the 16th round. Team USA's downfall was delivered by anti-America, anti-woman activist Megan Rapinoe's embarrassing free kick here." Okay, gotcha. Everything is a culture war situation for them. The reality is that the U.S. women's national team has been so dominant for so many years that this is bound to happen. I mean,
and also it's the unbearable weight of massive expectations too, because this is a team that's won 2 World Cups, and basically when your expectations are this heavy, it basically means that anything short of either a finals appearance or a victory in the World Cup is a colossal failure.
And they were runners up in the one previous in 2011.
Right.
So they won in 2015, won in 2019, and then they lost here because the core of the team is getting older. There were some bright spots. But the reality is like that's just what happens to dynasties. They can't win every single year, especially in the World Cup setting, which like when you get to the single elimination part, it's incredibly difficult.
And there's some real critiques to be made of Coach Vlatko Andonovski's roster decisions coming into the World Cup, in that there was a massive amount of offensive talent, but their midfield was a little bit shaky in terms of who they should have selected to kind of bolster that line to get the very stacked forward group that they had enough chances to score. And so that was the issue that we saw. I mean, they only beat Vietnam in the group stage 3-0. Vietnam is like a pretty low-ranked side for the World Cup. Went to a draw with the Netherlands, as well as a draw with Portugal. And so basically squeaking into the knockout rounds, into the round of 16, and ultimately losing on penalties here. With all that being said as well, basically with the header that Lindsey Horan had in the Netherlands game, which basically kind of saved them from having to really fight their way back with the Portugal game afterwards in the group stages. Andonovski did not make literally one substitution, even though the offense was sputtering and the midfield was not really giving them chances. So I think this was the same problem that they had under former manager Jill Ellis, that there wasn't a lot of creativity or versatility in their lineup to shake things up and make adaptations, because every other good team in this World Cup knows that they have to do that, knows that if something stops working, they have to counter it and then counter that counter. It's what we see in the NFL playoffs or NBA playoffs, where you literally, if you can't adapt, you die.
Yeah.
And so those things on the tactical standpoint, I think, are completely reasonable, but this is obviously... To say that you're more patriotic for saying you're glad that your own country's team lost in the World Cup, that only makes sense to you if you are addicted to something else.
I just sent you something. If we don't mind just pulling up this tweet.
Oh yeah, sure.
But like it makes sense when the conception of patriotism that they like really hold dear is one that's based in like essentially patriarchy and nationalism. In this conception of patriarchy, it's why the right is obsessed with like our troops are getting soy boyed and why are there women in the military or trans people in the military. It's because patriotism for them is not about loving one's country and wanting the best for the welfare of the people in this country. It's about an extension of like their freaking penis. I mean, I really feel like that is. I mean, it sounds, I don't know, a little bit reductive to say something like that, but they are that's how they view American might, is one of traditional masculine power. And like, it's not just the United States. That's just nationalism. You see nationalism as personified by traditional masculinity all the time. It's Putin on the horse, you know? It's all that.
Also, sorry, just some people have pointed out in the YouTube chat, Benny Johnson in that tweet referred to this as the 16th round of the World Cup. It's the round of 16, you dumb motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if you
One
want
F-bomb.
Yeah, maybe you want to score cheap points for your little dumbass Twitch or YouTube stream. I don't even know where he works anymore. The fabulous plagiarist that BuzzFeed hired. You should actually get your fucking facts right before you.
All right,
you
now
say
we're at
something.
2.
Sorry, I apologize.
You're done. You're done. You're out.
Beep.
Canceled. Okay.
But that just pissed me off. It's like, dude, you don't even know what you're insulting.
Of
like,
course they don't.
You literally don't even know what you're belittling.
They're in some group chat of like misogynists, and then they just got all excited and to crap on some more women. This was really interesting. I just saw this. Jonathan Tannenwald, I guess of the Inquirer, spoke to some of the Swedish players and asked them about the United States. This is Kosovare Aslani. It's the U.S. They will raise their standards and they're going to come back. I've heard there's been a lot of talk about it, but they will come back for sure. They have so much quality in their team, and this defeat will not take them down. I expect them to be ready for the next World Cup. We see more and more national teams are investing and raising their levels as well. But I mean, they're the U.S. The U.S. have a really good team. So I wouldn't say they're out of the game at all. Don't talk bleep about the U.S. women. I think you should be proud of your team. This is like them speaking to the United States here. You have a really good team and really good players, and they are taking the fight not just on the pitch, outside of the pitch. And this is what it takes to raise women's football to the next level. So I think you should encourage them and be a little more positive towards them. This is, one of the players, speaking basically to the right, who are critiquing the women in this way. This is Magdalena Eriksson. I think they've proved today that they're still an amazing team. They're definitely the toughest team we've faced so far in the tournament. They have amazing players. It's like you said, the youngsters really impressed me today. I think both Naomi, I can't see the name, and Sophia Smith had an amazing game. Naomi
Girma is the other player, and Sophia Smith.
They're still a massive powerhouse in women's football, and they will be for a long time. So, I mean, they're basically saying there at this point that in so many words, the women's team is a great team, and they're also making real changes in the sport and fighting for equal pay, because the U.S. women's national team has been so strident in saying, like, why are we compensated so why is our compensation so dwarfed by the U.S. Men's team when they can't even get into the World Cup some years? They can't even qualify. They're so pathetic. And so for the rest of women's players, they're happy that the U.S. is taking up that fight, because they have the clout to do so, because they've been so successful.
And also, just to say, like, if you literally, I would encourage our listeners, for like literally all of the teams that have qualified for this World Cup, I think there are maybe 3 of them that don't have serious issues with their federations and the countries that sponsor their soccer playing, because all of them also have the same issues that the U.S. have, where there are rampant structural issues regarding pay and conditions relative to the men's side of things. There are many complaints from the youth leagues, the feeder leagues, if there even are feeder leagues, like there are for every single men's side that has any sort of prominence in the world.
Great point, yeah.
Of sexual harassment, sexual assault, abusive conditions, abusive coaches. It happens everywhere. This is not an American thing where people hate America. It's not, the causality is not they hate their country, therefore they complain about their country, or they complain about the conditions of their play. This is a global issue, and it's important that the most prominent, most important, and most visible side in the world foregrounds and mainstreams these issues so other countries can do the same.
Yep. And I don't have the tweet in front of me, but I did see online that the goalie for Sweden as well is like known to be very outspoken on social issues
Wow.
as well. So these are the people you guys are rooting
Wokeness.
for. They also respect the U.S. women's national team. They want them to have success. They want to fight for equal pay, and they agree on wokeness. And Sweden's a little more socialist than the United States, and that's a good thing.
So I also just want to point out, I'm not sure if you saw this as well, that because all of this stuff is happening in terms of what we've been observing with these right wingers, astroturfing paying attention to the Women's World Cup for clicks and for engagement, that it really pisses me off when former U.S. women's team members like Carly Lloyd, who is one of the broadcasters for the Fox team that's at the World Cup, get upset with the players for after a game going and taking pictures with fans and acting as if that makes them lazy and not unambitious and not focusing on things, and then referring nebulously to, oh, it's something that happened post-2020 when people are focused on other issues. Hey, just literally say you think they're more focused on structural racism and that George Floyd scrambled their brains, Carly. Just make it easier for us.
It just makes the
post 2020. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Say exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, say what you want.
What happened in 2020 that would make you think that the soccer players on the team that you used to be on aren't as focused as they are now? Like support your former teammates. Like, that's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stand that. I can't stand that. I mean, and
post 2020.
That's just carrying your water for your new employer, and you're trying to make some sort of name for yourself. There.
It's also straddling the line. It's sitting on the fence between being Benny Johnson and being Carly Lloyd. Mm-hmm. Post 20. So you just say wokeness then.
Just
if that's
say
what
it.
You're thinking.
Just say it. Have the courage to be the bigot in public that you are.
Right.
Maybe in private.
It just that just annoys me so much, because it's one thing to be a right-wing crank or grifter idiot like these guys are who are saying it, or be literally Donald Trump. It's another thing to be a person who was on that team and saying that.
Oh yeah, total traitor mentality. Honestly, speaking of that network, this is not really the order we were considering going to this, but like, I listen to Rich Eisen fairly regularly. I mean, he works for NFL Network, so you're not gonna get all the time the most critical coverage, but despite the fact that he's employed by NFL Network, he has done some critical coverage about the running back market in particular and how running backs are mistreated, and with social issues and other things. So I like Rich, and he has great connections and great guests. This is not one of them. This is of Fox Broadcasting here. This is Mark Schlereth. I can never say it right, Bradley. What is it? Schlereth? Yeah. Again, the more I work with Sam, the less I can pronounce names. It's just unbelievable. Mark Schlereth, you'll know his voice, you'll know his face when you see it. He again works for Fox Sports now. I was basically shocked to hear this take. I thought it was unbelievable to hear this from a former player saying this about the running back market. This is the definition of a scab mentality. I mean, he's not a player right now, but he would be that kind of guy if he were still playing. This is his take on the running back market.
Sure, you are well aware of the conversation about the running back market and what's going on with Jonathan Taylor. Josh Jacobs still hasn't come in from the cold. Saquon Barkley's general manager, Joe Shane, will be on the program in hour number 3. So many people pinpointing your Shanahan teams, brother, as the origin of running backs becoming replaceable, and you can just run 1,000 yards in any system. And it's now 20-something years later coming home to roost for running backs, even though Mike's kid employs the highest paid one currently. What's your 2 cents on the Shanahan offense from back in the day leading to the present situation with the running backs? Mark?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Mike, it was Terrell Davis going for 1,100, then 1,400, then 1,700, then 2,000 getting injured. Orlando Gary coming in and rushing for 1,200. Then the next, him getting injured. Mike Anderson coming in and running for 1,400. The year that Mike Anderson had 1,400, TD would have had 2,000. Mm-hmm. So, there is a difference. There's no question. But it has become more of, as you know, a running back by committee, more of a specialization of that running back position. And frankly, I don't have a lot of sympathy. you know what? You signed the collective bargaining agreement. You gave the franchise tag. You negotiate things like less practice time, and you negotiate stupid stuff. Hey, I'm
Hey, can
part
you
of that.
pause
I'm
it for a
guilty,
sec?
right?
Okay, so I just want to point this out for a second. The reason that the NFL conceded on things like less practice time, you know why they did that? Because it doesn't cost them any money. That's why they got those concessions. Because it's an asymmetrical relationship between the union and the league. And the league was not going to give them the ability to hit the free market and have more negotiating power, which is why he's making some false equivalence between a concession of allowing for the franchise tag versus less practice time versus shorter off seasons so players have more time off. That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. The players have been unable to make more gains in getting more money from their employers, from the billionaires who have all the capital, from the real tangible elements, the financial side of the game. They have not been able to make gains that are requisite, that are in keeping with the growth of the league, and this is most acutely felt at the running back position. So I just wanted to point that out in real time. Let's go back like 10 seconds and then keep playing this guy's, complete diatribe here. It's really gross.
You negotiate things like less practice time, and you negotiate stupid stuff. Hey, I'm part of that. I'm guilty, right? I was a player too, so understand it. You negotiate stupid stuff. They know you're going to negotiate stupid stuff that doesn't really matter, and that's your own fault. And as far as the running backs, having a stupid Zoom meeting and all complaining and whining about it, it is what it is. That's the market, and that's how market economics work. So quit complaining about it. I don't remember any of the star running backs at the time standing up on their podiums complaining about how unfair it is that the fullbacks were becoming extinct, as long as they were getting there. So, I don't really want to hear it. It's the market. Take the money that's available to you. Go out there and play great. Whatever. I don't have any sympathy, empathy, any of the fees. None of the fees bother me. I don't care.
That was basically that. I wish Rich provides more pushback there, but look, I'm not gonna. This isn't Face the Nation or something like that. It's not the end of the world here. And Mark's gonna say what he's gonna say, and Rich's commentary on this in general has been pretty good. So I just find his attitude to be both grossly dismissive and also stupid, because it's not a free market. It's not a free market.
The franchise tag literally makes it almost so that it is not a free market.
Exactly.
For running backs. There are constraints that make it so the market is actually much more rigid for them.
For people that don't realize what happens, a franchise tag can be applied to a player after their final year of their rookie deal. For non-first round picks, it's a 4-year contract. For first-round picks, there's a 5th-year option. Then they can be franchise tagged. Then they can be franchise tagged a second time, which is a bit of an increase from the first time. But Saquon Barkley is currently going through that. His 5th-year option was picked up, and then he was just franchise tagged because he was unable to go through a long-term deal. Now, for Saquon, he's in the top of the current running back market in terms of career earnings. So because he was the 2nd overall pick. God damn it, Dave Gettleman apparently, he could have traded down because someone wanted to trade up for Josh Allen, and he chose not to do that. Whatever. Yeah, that guy sucked. But regardless, he's in a better position than most because of how highly he was drafted and how those contracts are structured based on where you were drafted. The point, Mark, is that not everybody is Saquon Barkley. Not everyone's going to be Bijan Robinson taken 8th overall. Not everybody is going to be even Najee Harris, who was taken in the 1st round, where they get some millions at the start of their contract. Most of these guys are like Dameon Pierce. Most of these guys could be like Arian Foster, who we just interviewed, who was undrafted and whose most productive years happened when they're making like $300,000, $400,000 a year. And then once it gets time at the end of that 4-year contract, then maybe they get franchise tagged, and then it's 5 years and we throw you away. Because those are considered the most productive years of the running back's professional life. Partly because it's not a free market. Because of the franchise tag, and because the NFL has decided, hey, we're going to let college football exploit these guys for 3 years. They can't come out for whenever they want. They can't come out when they're ready. They have to play for free for this period of time, and they have to play as professionals but not get paid like professionals. And we have structured the collective bargaining agreement in a way that is completely asymmetrical and hurts running backs in particular. So it's just like completely contradictory what he says there. It's a CBA, but it's a free market. Well, which one is it though then, dude? Which one is it? Because we're saying right now that the collective bargaining agreement has made the market not free for running backs. So which one is it?
Because the CBA, by the way it is designed right now, as we spoke to Arian Foster about last week, it factually constrains them. They can't go out and seek the highest dollar amount or highest money. They certainly can, but if they're in the sense that sure it's the same thing as basically saying when pigs could theoretically fly, but no one is going to give Christian Kirk money even to a running back in their late 20s to early 30s.
Yeah.
So it's not really a free market when there's only one really willing participant in that exchange, in that relationship.
Yeah.
When there's one agreeable or one motivated party and the other ones who would actually supply the funds don't want to do it, and they're the only ones who are in the position to do so, what are they going to do? Go to the USFL? Go to the XFL? That's not that's not serious. That's not feasible.
And his argument that fullbacks, no one complained at that period of time. I mean, it's true. The NFL has been more geared towards the pass. But a lot of these running backs are catching passes and are a part of the passing game. Christian McCaffrey, who was just given as an example, is one of them. Bijan Robinson is certainly going to be a part of it. Jahmyr Gibbs, a first-round pick, will be a part of the passing game. That's different. And I'm sorry if it was an injustice in the past doesn't mean that injustice should continue in the future.
But that's also why as I was saying before, and as we've talked about a little bit, with the more implementation of lighter boxes on defense, that to sort of try and make it so that people kind of have to run or in order to then be able to once they actually offensive play callers sort of compensate for how much the pass has become paramount by implementing a more robust run game, to make it so that they can ultimately, now that they've done that, have the release valve of the pass.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the Bengals do it a little bit more. We're seeing the Bills do it a little bit more. We definitely saw the Chiefs do it a little bit more. In the Super Bowl, the Eagles, for example, with how much their run game was so integral to their offense, the position itself is not actually undervalued in terms of schematics, and in terms of gameplay,
and in terms of eyeballs, and in terms of fantasy football. That needs to be baked into the cake.
It's not. It's the position is not. The players are
100%,
and that's the problem.
And it's so freaking funny that at the start of the segment he mentions the Shanahan scheme and how it's responsible, and then says, they also employ right now the highest paid running back in the NFL in Christian McCaffrey. Seems like Kyle Shanahan values the running back position, so much so that they traded multiple draft assets so they could acquire Christian McCaffrey because they wanted that extra edge in the run scheme. And I'm not one to say it's you should be paying a running back like a quarterback right now. I understand the analytics show that the quarterback position, it's the most bang for your buck, blah 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 blah. But I'm sorry, they need to be paid fairly during their most productive years. For their production, they should be paid. And it's getting to a point now where the running back needs to start holding out after the third year, regardless of where they have been drafted, because the extension after the third year or bust. And it shouldn't even be the case that they have to do that. But this is going to be the future of running back labor. And I also just want to point out, too, it's not that fullbacks yes, the fullback position has basically gone by the wayside. I mean, we see this in the NBA, for example. You can't be a big and not shoot anymore for the most part. You're not going to get paid top dollar. That's the reality of the situation. You need to be able to score. And guys that can't, it's basically been being filtered out of the game. The fullback position has, yes, a lot of teams don't even have fullbacks like essentially on their 53 man, but that's because tight ends are doing the jobs of blocking that fullbacks have done in the past, and they can catch passes. So it's a shift in responsibility. It's not analogous to what the running backs are going through right now. To Bradley's point, they're still very much valued on the field and and for the business of the NFL. But just like in terms of getting compensated for their contributions, that's not happening.
But they're also caught in a trap because, for example, Isaiah Pacheco was one of the most productive backs in the playoffs, especially in the Super Bowl. He's a 7th-round rookie. He performs well, which is great for him in the beginning. Will make him more money as a result, and then he then gets to the point where there's too much tread on his tires. Then teams look and say, "Hey, the Chiefs found Pacheco. Why do we need to pay a running back?" Their success and their failures are
used against them.
Are used to exploit them.
Yeah, I mean, look at this is the money that they're supposed to live on for their lives. His signing bonus was $79,000, and he makes, yeah. He makes 700,870K this year. That's a little bit better because I think it's bumped up based on his some of his production that is baked in, but it's just not enough. So that is that. That was pretty gross by Schlereth. I did it. Mark Schlereth.
Whose nickname is Stink, by the way.
Some more, well, he stinks. Some more just NFL talk. Honestly, just I guess for the rest of the show. And we won't be taking calls today. A little bit of a shorter episode. We will try to take calls next episode. Sorry about that, guys. But wanted to touch on the Netflix quarterback series because Bradley and I have both watched it at this point. Did you finish the whole thing?
Yes. Big fan.
It was amazing. Like, apparently Joe Burrow is likely to be featured. There's a lot of reports coming out that, Lamar Jackson was approached and turned it down. Trevor Lawrence was approached and turned it down. And I don't know if you can take that at face value because this is in, I think, concert with NFL Films. This is, by the way, Omaha Productions and NFL Films working together. And that's Peyton Manning's production company. Good for that guy. He's really got it going on right now, I think, in terms of making some money. But it was also just incredibly well done, I thought. You really see why Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be the greatest player in the history of the sport. I don't really think that's hyperbolic to say that. Bradley, not sure if you agree.
Yeah. No, I think what was the hyperbolic thing you said?
I knew you were doing something else.
Yeah. You caught me.
I caught you.
I'm going to detention.
It's fine. I have no jurisdiction over you whatsoever.
Well,
except for public shame.
Yeah.
So just that he's going to go down as the greatest player in the history
Mahomes?
of the NFL.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were saying Mariota's going to go down as the greatest player.
Probably not. Probably not.
That's why I was ignoring you.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I agree, and also I think that's what I guess was so enlightening, or at least fun to watch, specifically the Mahomes arc, because getting access to that it's one thing to get access to Kirk Cousins, it's one thing to get access to Marcus Mariota, it's even one thing to get access to like any NFL quarterback like that, and to have it interspersed with NFL Films footage that they already have. So to me, which I thought I really enjoyed, because it was like getting to relive some of these games from the recent past with a lot of like really engaging on-field footage and hearing them sort of mic'd up and talking during plays and stuff.
Yes.
But especially seeing like the best player of our lifetime, I would say, in terms of at his age, with what he's already accomplished, kind of seeing the inner machinations of his training and his personal life. And
I mean, he just somehow comes across more likable. He's somehow a meathead who like goes, I'm here, and like gets in Max Crosby's face. He has that ridiculous kind of like froggy voice that I started to love the more I watched it, because I just start to like think he's the coolest guy ever. He's totally like competitive and like psycho on the field like that. He's very athletic. I mean, the footage they show with his trainer talking about how flexible
I thought that
his
was
back
so
is,
fascinating.
the torque that he can create was really fascinating.
Like the kinetics of his body, sort of like why that makes him the player that he is, but also analogizing him to this flexibility in it anatomically he sort of has as compared to like a baseball player.
100%.
Like sort of like the way he can use the way his arm angles shift, because it's akin to like a submarine pitcher or like a sidearm pitcher.
Yeah.
Being able to angle his arm differently to make these throws that to us are like otherworldly.
Yes.
Which I thought was so interesting.
And then also the mental side of it, where he is just on this like other level, and the creativity that Andy Reid encourages of him drawing up plays, the passion for the game. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm never going to be impressed by Brady's play in the first 3 Super Bowls. I mean, I found those to be more defensively oriented. And Brady did become elite as his career continued, and he played very well in those Super Bowls. But let's be real. Let's be real about what we're witnessing. Patrick Mahomes has the elite athleticism and arm
physical talent.
Yes,
like,
and the mind stuff. And what Mahomes has been asked to do to win those 2 Super Bowls is more than Brady was asked to do for almost everyone except the comeback with the Falcons. And it's not just about the team and getting the hardware. It's about what is required of the quarterback in this situation. And you see Mahomes on that ankle doing absolutely everything he could to not just win the AFC Championship game, but to win the Super Bowl with that bum ankle. So I couldn't be more impressed by him. Not that he needs my praise. He comes off like just really down to earth. I mean, who knows how long that lasts when you're kind of in that bubble, but like, I also will say too that you see a contrast in the passion that is displayed by someone like Mahomes versus Mariota. And I know that's easy to say when you're the guy that's on top of the world and somebody who is fighting for a starting job. But the reality of the situation is that you also have to have a love of the game to be able to succeed in that way. And Mariota, he's a good athlete. He clearly has some talent, but you could just tell that his passion for the sport was not at the same level of Mahomes and even of Kirk Cousins, who, look, I don't know if I would like Kirk Cousins on an individual level. I mean, I will say that, like, I was a little weirded out by his wife's constant high necklines and like her. The rabid Christianity of it all is just like, all right, that I know he was a little anti-vax. I don't know if I would love.
Did you notice
their Christianity? Like they're very conservative.
So
yeah.
With all due respect to the very lovely Cousins family, and their 2 lovely young boys, and the nice life that the Tuesdays off are so vital for Julie and Kirk to get their time together with the dog and with the kids and stuff. Very, very, very lovely white American family picture. Love to see it. Julie seems a little crazed. The eyes. Okay,
I was really, I was holding back. But yes, that was my reaction. She gave me such cult vibes.
The eyes always kind of gave it away a little bit, where there was seeming to be something lying beneath. But I also think Brittany's a little crazed as well. Right? Brittany Mahomes.
Yeah, but
I think there's
crazed in like a basic lady way, as
Mariota's
opposed to crazed in like I'm a Christian lady and God will smite you down.
Mariota's mother, Mariota's wife, seemed easily the most normal.
Yeah.
But the thing about what I found fascinating, and I don't know if you noticed this was something that made me laugh really hard, is that when they do the thing where Kirk goes to Barnes & Noble, and he's just getting a stack. He's like, I go get a stack of books and read by myself.
Yeah.
He's like, I could be here for a whole day. He asks the staff, the staff member at Barnes and Noble for the for the Killing series written by Martin Dugard, and I was like, I know that series of books, but I don't think that's who that's written by. And I looked at
Bill O'Reilly books,
and I confirmed that Martin Dugard, funnily enough, is the co-author of the Bill O'Reilly series.
I didn't even pick up on that. I just was like, it's just some Christian thing he's looking at. I didn't even realize
he was looking
that.
for like the Killing Lincoln, Killing Washington, Killing Kennedy series,
Oh
but
my
interestingly
God.
chose not to name the other co-author of those books.
Well, okay. I thought, honestly, he came across as better than I anticipated. You never hear him swear one time. He says, "Dang it" and "Darn it."
Dang it, Kirk!
Dang it, Kirk! But like, the thing that's really stuck out is one, like he really does. He works hard.
And he works hard. And he's like, and you can see, and he's a tough son of a gun.
Oh yeah,
like,
he's injured.
He
don't say son of a bitch because that would offend him.
Close. He swear jar. You really saw it when you were seeing the field level of a lot of the sacks, and it just goes to show, like, that team, for how far they got and how many games they won, they were playing with a pretty terrible offensive line. The interior guard
and
play,
their defense was atrocious last year. I think the Vikings are going to fall off this year because they overperformed like crazy.
But I mean, almost undefeated in one score games. That's very hard to replicate. And besides Christian Darrisaw, who's a great young offensive lineman, Ed Ingram and Brian O'Neill struggled, even though he is also like a Pro Bowl caliber player. But like their interior guard play made it so that he was getting rocked over and over and over again.
Yeah, he really was.
He
tough.
was in agony for a lot of those games.
And I was impressed. And look, I mean, Kirk Cousins, you can do a lot worse than Kirk Cousins as a player.
Totally.
I found though his explanation again for throwing behind the sticks to Hawkinson instead of just launching it to Justin Jefferson in that game against the Giants in the playoffs to be a poor explanation.
And I think it's like that to me just seems like a justification of a mistake.
But
almost.
they show, but that's the thing that people, I mean, and I try not to get too into the psychology of these guys, but that's the things that Vikings fans don't like about him is that they feel like in these big moments, he shrinks. And against the Bills, he's got nothing to lose. It's a regular season game, and he on 4th and 17 or 4th and 19 or whatever the hell it was, just throws it into Justin Jefferson in double coverage, and wow, it was one of the greatest catches in the history of the NFL.
True. Like,
why not try that again in the playoff game on 4th down, where you're turning the ball over regardless?
It's a matter of, as we talked about, I think at the time, literally just in a moment like that, simplicity winning out overall. Try and get the ball that we have for this very limited possession that is, like you said, no matter what happens, if we don't make it happen, is going to turn over downs. Do anything you can to get in the ball of the best player.
Yeah,
the best player on the field amongst both teams.
100%.
The soon to be at that point offensive player of the entire NFL player of the year in the NFL to get it in his hands. And I think, like as you were saying, I think. It's justifying something, I think, in that moment or whenever he was talking about it, that's kind of devastating.
Yeah.
For someone who knows, he's 30, he's going to be 35 next year.
Well,
or this year. He's the number of times that he has to make the playoffs again and eventually potentially win a Super Bowl to put in his like kind of interesting memorabilia room in his lake house.
Yeah. But also the decor of that, it was like, I mean, they're so rich. And it was like a stereotype of a live, laugh,
I was
house.
kind of fascinated by the modesty of both homes.
Shag carpets.
He's made so much money in the NFL, an enormous amount of money in the NFL,
anyway.
and yet.
Whereas
the Mahomes mansion that they made,
shady.
the acres of land that they had with the tennis court, golf course, basketball court, like I mean, they were doing it right.
Well, I think Kirk is
biding
his time until he goes to the 49ers with Kyle Shanahan after this year.
Which I would like. Let's do it. Come on, let's do it.
But if he can work with a play caller that literally just programs him to do the right play as opposed to him having to improvise, he can have a ton of success. And Shanahan's the best in the game at that. But I will just say, like, for children, for my, if I have kids that love football or if I have kids that love sports, the fact that like you can go back and see this process for Mahomes, that there's been this access for him in one of the greatest seasons a quarterback has ever had. He threw for over 5,000 yards in 2022-2023 season. He won the Super Bowl on a bum ankle. He did it without his best receiver, who had just gotten traded to the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill, with a bunch of, I mean, Kelsey's amazing, Hall of Famer, but like receiving, you know, it was like Juju and
I mean, the two of the receiving touchdowns that were scored,
and
two of the receiving touchdowns that were scored in that Super Bowl was one brilliantly drawn up play to Kadarius Toney to start, and then the assignments on the second one, been basically the exact same play. Mahomes realized that they were not actually lined up correctly.
Yep.
And so it was the same sort of play to Sky Moore. He realized that they had literally messed up the alignment and they still scored.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we have that documented, like I was a dork that watched all of the 4, you know, Giants NFL Network documentaries about their, you know, Super Bowl runs, the America's Game ones, where it's super cheesy, and like they interview, in the old ones they interview Phil Simms and Lawrence Taylor, and in the new ones Eli Manning and Michael Strahan or Justin Tuck and stuff like that, and those are really good too, but they're documenting it in reverse, right? Like once the Super Bowl is won, they'll use that footage that they have and then going back and narrating it. To have it in real time, to see the process, it's like, it's a gift for sports historians and for people that want to look back on the player who I think will go down as the greatest to ever play the position, until, you know, the next person comes and is more amazing.
The one thing my one critique of the whole series, which I think maybe it was also potentially because obviously these guys, obviously, I think, of course, want to have some sort of editorial say-so and curate what is being released. I kind of would have loved to see them almost like talk with their like publicists or like their agents or whatever. And there would, of course, there would just be no way for that to actually be like videotaped, obviously. I like that we sort of got to see Mariota and his like friend / personal chef, like, and to talk a little bit about like his eating habits and stuff. Mm-hmm. I wish we got a little bit more of that with Mahomes.
His eating habits were terrible, and he's like, yeah, if I could have it my way. It's
so he'd be like, I'd eat like, you know, McDonald's.
Yeah, and then the fact that, oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying that I would have loved to see a little bit more of like the nutrition side for Mahomes, because we got a lot of good training stuff, and also obviously like the interesting stuff that Cousins does with like his like the interesting chiropractor duo that he has.
They seem a little off.
And the brain stuff that he does for his memory. Yeah. I thought was kind of fascinating, but I was also wondering a little bit about his like like they're kind of like, you know, I loved seeing Mahomes' like pregame tradition that they go through it every week, of like the stitching of like every single week where he like does the scream at the end of the other end zone, does the MVS like makes a hoop and they put it in his hands like a basketball shot. Like, I love that type of stuff. The one thing I think one of my favorite scene of the whole thing that was like catnip to me was watching him in his like lair, Mahomes, breaking down film of like the Chargers defense.
Oh yeah.
And I was like seeing this guy like being like Kyle Van Noy's like creeping up a little bit over there. Derwin James is like kind of
watching
a hybrid
their body
guy.
language.
Right. So he might drop back, but you're not sure. Keying on like the way Joey Bosa like puts his right leg out or whatever. I literally was like, this is a genius at work. Like,
yes.
this is where you see like the actual like intellectual mastery that is required as well, beyond any sort of athletic gift.
He is the Brady mind with the Aaron Rodgers physical ability. Like, if not, and also he's thicker than Rodgers, and even better athlete potentially. But Rodgers in his heyday was a great athlete.
And the one thing I also want to say, just in defense of Mariota, because I think this was a little bit of a tough look at the end of
when
things.
he leaves the team.
Right. So like,
I did not think that was great.
So I feel for him in the sense that it seems like a lot of things in his football career did not fully go as planned. Being in the sense of being kind of leaving your home like thousands of miles away to play in Oregon and be a fantastic, like phenomenal prospect, win the Heisman, go second overall, and like kind of be a pretty large disappointment in Tennessee. Try and kickstart your career again in Vegas unsuccessfully, and then go to the Falcons as a starter with a guy they absolutely drafted to replace him. not perform that well and lose in some pretty back-breaking manners, and seemingly, with all due respect to the Falcons organization, clearly maybe not that prioritized when Brittany Mahomes is in a box every game, and seemingly his pregnant wife and his friend were like in the 16th row behind the field goal posts, like, and then getting replaced because of obviously poor play, and then picking himself over the team to get surgery and get right to potentially get another contract, because there's no way
the surgery thing wasn't established. I mean, like,
because there's no way they were gonna sign him again, though. No,
totally.
No way.
I know, but like,
I also do. I think
you've got like a month and a half left. Be there for your teammates.
I totally understand.
I'm old school
but I see that for sure. My one thing with that is I do wonder. I kind of feel like the series made that more of a controversy because I
heard NFL people talking about it at the time.
But I feel like with me, like, we covered that season. I feel like that was not like something on our radar.
Well, I think Arthur Smith did him a solid and didn't publicize it that much, but like,
which I think was good on him, because it's clear that they actually had a special relationship from Tennessee, because he could have totally railroaded him more for that.
Also, Arthur Smith, so hard to listen to. I mean, I'm really weird.
No smiling from that guy ever.
Yeah, and then just anyway, it seems very. I have a hard time thinking he's like a great leader, but I don't know. But his run scheme seems to be pretty good. But I thought it was. I don't like that. I think if you guys
I hear you.
The
I think
backup,
that's fair.
You're getting
yeah.
paid. He's not getting paid poorly.
Make the commitment to stick it out with your team.
Yeah, and he didn't go back. He didn't even go back home to Hawaii. He went to Vegas.
Yes.
So I'm just like, all right. I mean,
totally. I agree. I just think I had a little bit of sympathy for him, because I was like, this is a guy who, like, like with the flap of a butterfly's wing, is like the Heisman Trophy winner and second overall pick, maybe would have been like a superstar, and we remember him for being more of a bust than anything else.
Well, he seems like a really nice guy.
He does seem like a good person.
But he doesn't seem like he loves football. And I don't know. I mean, it would be it would be one thing if he left the Falcons and he retired, but he's about to be the Eagles' backup. So
he doesn't seem to have as much, like, and this is obviously not super quantifiable, but you see kind of like the psychotic competitiveness that Kirk and Mahomes have. Because like Cousins is a little bit more mild mannered, but when he's on the field, he is like an inferno.
Oh yeah, like, and he works hard and all that stuff.
He's furious when things go wrong. He's like O'Connell literally is like, I have to give him time because I know he's gonna bite my head off. Then I tell him to get back in the game. Like, O'Connell was like, I had to learn to deal with like his real fury.
He came off well. Yeah, Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I loved hearing him talk, because he seems to be also he seems to be a guy where I'm like, you're thoughtful, and I could see you being a good leader.
Yeah. Wish we had more Eric Bieniemy. I feel like we got more Matt Nagy.
I wonder if that was intentional, because he's not on the team anymore.
Maybe. And then the other thing we
got too much Matt Nagy. It was like, get off my screen.
I know. Well, now he's the OC.
Look at you.
The other thing that I thought was interesting, I've had more to say about this than I thought, and I keep doing this, pointing my finger in the air. You know, I don't know why I'm doing that.
Wagging your finger at me?
Yeah. I'm condescending you.
No, you're Mutombo. No.
Gosh. You know what I found interesting too was, I think that Mahomes really has kind of more hatred for Burrow than he does for Allen.
No question, because they've beat the Bills. They've been able he
has more respect for the Bengals than he does for the Bills. He said it. He said, I think we would match up better with the Bills, but not the Bengals I want to play more. The Bills are not as talented as the Bengals. We've been saying that all year.
I think this season it became clear, but also I think seeing this rivalry kind of budding, and kind of the frustration of trying to get over the hump with the Bengals, like losing to them in the AFC Championship game when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Rams, losing the regular season game, and then finally being able to win when, obviously the Bengals were talking a lot of trash before that game with the Burrowhead stuff, the mayor, signing that proclamation, Mahomes take a paternity test, like stuff like that. That was all like seemingly a lot of huge bulletin board material for this team.
Yeah, that mayor is an idiot. What was wrong with him?
That was silly.
And also, Jamar Chase, don't say Pat who.
Right.
Like in the
you guys haven't won a Super Bowl. Factually.
Exactly.
He's won two.
And I love the Bengals, and I love that they're fiery. But let's not trash talk Mahomes until you guys get the hard.
But what I was trying to say there is that, to me, with the talent on the Bengals team this year, if Burrow is healthy, which I think he should be, hopefully before week 1, this to me is like the Chiefs-Bengals rivalry. Like the Bills to me now, with their talent on their roster, I think they're a step below.
Yes. They might be the third most talented team in the division.
Right, and that's the thing too. With
the Jets?
with the
Dolphins?
re-upping of arms of their division rivals too.
Yeah.
We'll see obviously how the Jets and the Dolphins experiments go now. Obviously Vic Fangio. I mean Ramsey's injured until December it seems, but still a very talented front seven. Seemingly the most kinetic, volcanic offense that we saw last year until Tua got injured.
Even with the quarterback being subpar.
And then the Jets not only the Jets retooling, but also I think getting better in some respects also. So we'll see with that. But I think even just seeing this, I was like, it's the Burrow-Mahomes rivalry right now.
Yeah.
It's not the Burrow-Mahomes-Allen rivalry.
Right now. I mean, but Allen, I think, and Burrow are closer in terms of skill set. It's just that the Bills, the Bills are going to have to make a change at coach at the end of the year, in my opinion. I think that people.
I think absent them winning the Super Bowl.
You
know what I mean? Like,
I don't think Ken Dorsey can. It doesn't seem like.
I just think we saw a different leveling off from Dable to Dorsey. That the offense was not nearly as creative, and there weren't nearly as many alternatives for Josh Allen. Whereas what we saw last year was basically. If there's nobody open, Josh, be a bull. Like just bulldoze into the line.
Yeah,
and see what happens.
And they need. I mean, it's hard when you have a defensive head coach. I feel the same way about Herbert. Like, if you don't have somebody really competent running the offense who's also going to be there for a long time, it's a struggle. So.
It makes the potential not match up with the results.
Yes, exactly. Succinctly said. We'll read some IMs in a sec, but I wanted to. We played a little game before the show. Bradley and I decided we were going to pick just a few rookies who we have our eye on, who could break out in fantasy. Now, look, should I be putting this on the internet when I'm in a bunch of fantasy leagues? Perhaps not. But I have a responsibility to the viewers, and so these are just some people I'm thinking of. And I'm going to go with guys that are a little bit more under the radar after this first pick. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a huge surprise for people. I think he was incredibly talented at Alabama. I think that Bijan Robinson gets a lot of the hype, rightfully so. Best running back in the draft. Jahmyr Gibbs is getting hate, I think, for being a bit overdrafted, and like the fact that
which is like not his fault. Obviously,
the Lions had a lot of draft capital and they chose to spend it on a second to third round linebacker by most estimates,
Jack
and
Campbell,
then also this running back where they could have done some things that would have been better for them in the trenches, for example.
Who also, by the way, neither guy, bad player at all. Just like truly, you just like. It was just surprising to see those selections, the second running back by all accounts, and the second off-ball linebacker by all accounts on the big boards in these drafts.
Yes,
drafted in the first round consecutively, or but in consecutive picks by the same team.
So I really do I really do think that Jahmyr Gibbs could be in the running for Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to get a ton of catches. I think it's going to be a situation. Definitely. This is a lot of guys from the New Orleans crew, right? And I saw some analysis saying David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara 2.0. And for
they
me,
do complement each other well because they don't do the same things. Mm-hmm. They are very complementary backs in terms of style.
I've always thought that David Montgomery is one of the most overrated running backs in the league because he doesn't have the speed that I would like at that position. And he's good at like the first level of things, but he's not the home run hitter that I would want.
No, I agree.
But if he's just a complement to Jahmyr Gibbs, that is very interesting because he can maybe be at the goal line, so that could take away from Jahmyr Gibbs's touchdown stuff from fantasy perspective. But I will say, if you're playing in a PPR format, Gibbs is somebody I would be very interested in. So he's my first pick.
Did you see the video of him from from his draft interview with the Lions, where he was sort of talking about how he grips the ball? Did you see that?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's just an interesting video because it also just seems like he's very clearly also like just from a process perspective and a learning perspective, he seems to be like a super, super heady, smart guy who's also extremely talented. I also just think
he's an Alabama guy,
and that's the other thing too. When you thrive in an Alabama system and an Alabama offense, it's almost like semi-pro. Like you kind of are like a lot is put on you and you're expected. Well, a lot is expected of you, and when you deliver like he has, I think there's only good things in his future, especially with a Ben Johnson led offense.
Yes.
One of the most creative play callers I think so far, with greater than the sum of its parts on offense with what he's done with them, and a guy who probably will get a head coaching nod
after this,
relative to however successful the Lions are. But I think he's one of the big, hot seat.
And Lions defense, it's not going to be that improved, so they're going to be passing.
Totally.
You're up.
Oh, well, so you mentioned my guys. Obviously, it's a little bit less like this one is not super. This isn't splitting the atom here. That I'm really excited to see Bijan Robinson play. But we said obviously it seems like we were talking about with quarterback that Arthur Smith doesn't seem to be the most like charismatic or like kind of doesn't seem to exhibit a lot of leadership traits just by like hearing him talk in interviews or in press conferences and stuff. But he is very clearly a pretty impressive offensive mind,
specifically with the run,
and also just how he deploys guys in ways that don't always completely cohere to their position. Like, he'll have sets where, like Kyle Pitts is a wide receiver, Cordero Patterson's the running back, and like Drake London is like in line. This like huge guy is like playing the seam, like it's or playing the slot. Like that's
kind of a Michael Thomas thing, right? Like I could see
kind of putting an X
London
guy in the flat or something like that. He's super creative with how he uses his personnel. So to slot who I think is maybe one of, if not the most talented running back prospect since Saquon potentially
definitely
into that offense with like a pretty solid offensive line with Caleb McGarry, Drew Dalman, and Chris Lindstrom, one of the best guards, maybe the best guard in the league. Kyle Pitts ascending as a tight end, already an amazing blocker. We hopefully can see a little bit more of him on the receiving end. Same goes for Drake London. Tyler Algier also as a complement running back as well. Mac Hollins to be kind of the over-the-middle guy. So I think a guy like Hollins will be used really, really, really smartly in this offense. And then obviously the question mark remains to be whether Desmond Ridder can get a whole lot out of himself with this group of guys, but he's truly couldn't be in a better situation to perform.
100%, and it seems like they're going to do a lot of RPOs. It's going to make it as easy as possible on the quarterback. Right. You just have to be smart, be able to run the offense.
If he can literally be a caretaker type quarterback with this many offensive weapons, I think it's going to be a really, really fun group to watch. And one of, obviously, as we were talking about with Gibbs, also one of Bijan's best qualities is screen passes.
Oh yeah,
he's an incredible pass catcher for a running back and great with yak stuff after catching the ball, while also being a super explosive, super talented runner.
Yeah,
I'm super excited. It was a crazy pick at the time, but I love it.
Oh yeah,
Put all the chips into the middle.
Whoever's the quarterback for the Falcons next year, I don't think it'll be Ridder or Taylor Heineke.
Yes, I agree.
They are going to be very happy.
Totally,
based on the way that offense is set up right now. And you're right about Lindstrom. I hadn't even really thought about him that much, but he is the best guard in football now, and he's going to open up lanes.
Him and Dalman are underrated a little bit because he's the Dalman being the center, Drew Dalman, because
no one cares about the Falcons.
Atlanta doesn't get a whole lot of coverage, especially when they're not great. So like Lindstrom doesn't really get mentioned as some of the other big offensive linemen do, but he's someone I actually just enjoy watching clips of.
Yeah,
he's just a fun watch.
My next pick is going to be again from the Lions, Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta. These are my next two picks are going to be a little more under the radar. He's getting first team reps already as a tight end, and I think there's a hole left by T.J. Hawkinson in Detroit. They clearly valued Laporta enough to take him in the second round, and the fact that he's already at that point in training camp means that he's trusted as a pass catcher, which was a strength of his coming out of college. I normally would not select a first-year rookie tight end in a fantasy draft, but if you're really deep in the draft, he's a great flyer to take, just based on, as I said, the the Lions are going to be passing a lot. Their defense they did not do enough to improve their defense, even though they did get C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's good for them. But they had one of the worst defenses in the league last year.
He's injured though, isn't he?
He got injured, but it was not as bad as initially
anticipated.
Oh, got it.
Okay,
so
good.
He should
Thank
be
God.
back.
Wow. But yes, I agree with even like linebacker play. It's like linebacker play was one of their worst areas, and they didn't really do anything except like re-sign Alex Anzalone.
And they drafted Jack Campbell, but like he's a rookie, so I just don't really see their defense improving a ton this year. So I bet on Ben Johnson. I bet on that offense. I don't think I'd go for Jared Goff because he can't rush, so that's like a huge advantage in fantasy. But he could be a good backup quarterback option in the deeper league. I would just say Sam Laporta, watch out for him. He could be the superstar tight end to come out of this because I know who your next pick is, right? Maybe just say it.
But Laporta, just one thing about him is that also what's a good bet with him is that he was essentially the entirety of the Iowa offense last season. So I also think he will be able to shoulder a decent offensive load as a rookie.
And Iowa tight ends are as pro-ready as it gets.
Oh, for sure. They're usually pretty reliable.
And Iowa offensive linemen, they know what they're doing.
They know what they do with the big boys. Yeah, for sure. And then for me, I'm taking a tight end as well, Dalton Kincaid for the Bills.
Yeah.
Even though obviously we're saying, we have our reservations about the Bills, but I think Kincaid has a similar... comparing him to Travis Kelce is a losing battle because it's not fair to a guy like that to compare him to Travis Kelce, but he is sort of a guy who is kind of like that Z or X level tight end because he's not an amazing blocker, but he moves really, really well for his size. He's incredibly talented both in terms of catching the ball and going after the catch, and I think being able to be a duo with him and Dawson Knox, who Dawson Knox is a good pass catching tight end like in the red zone, but he's not nearly as athletic as Kincaid is. So Allen having this big target who can run and can get into the end zone and is like a creative route runner for a tight end. Obviously, as we've both said numerous times, tight end takes a little bit more to develop. As a position in the NFL, it's not always a guy comes out lab generated like ready to go. But usually it takes a few years. But Kincaid, I think, will be put in a good position, and Allen, I think, is going to find a good friend in Dalton Kincaid in scoring situations.
I mean, Kincaid is like one of the most talented tight ends to come out. It seems like in a while. I just worry about
prototypical size,
the back
too.
issue a little bit.
Right, he had a little injury concern, yeah.
But if he stays healthy, I mean, I'm with you.
Honorable mentions with the tight ends are definitely the two guys that the Packers took. I'm looking forward to seeing Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave.
I am, but I'm not going for them in fantasy.
No, they might also cancel each other out production wise.
Yeah, don't take them in fantasy.
No.
Just because.
I'm just excited
to watch for the future of fantasy.
Yes. I'm just excited to see how they're deployed.
Yeah.
But yes, for sure. I would take Kincaid or Laporta just because like they're gonna have more like the lion's share of targets.
But later for these kinds of tight ends, just because it's more on the upside. And then here's my ultimate upside pick for fantasy: Chase Brown, 5th round pick. Running back for the Cincinnati Bengals out of Illinois. Joe Mixon just took a pay cut. That's in part because I know he's had some issues, like maybe some rumblings of off the field, but also he's getting a little older. And Chase Brown is talented. He's been doing well in camp by all accounts. And this is like ultimate flyer, very late round situation, I would say, for Chase Brown. But if Joe Mixon gets injured, and I know Mixon has actually has been quite durable for most of his career, but he's not getting any younger. Chase Brown could be the next up, and Samaje Perine is now in Denver. He's no longer in Cincinnati, and they've been pretty diligent about using the second running back. And Perine, I think Chase Brown's more talented than Perine, and Perine was catching passes for them. So in PPR formats, a real flyer here is Chase Brown. Yeah,
I was just going to say with the Perine thing now that he's in Denver will definitely be, I think, a good idea because he will definitely, I think, get up, assume those reps that Perine was taking when Mixon wasn't in the game. So I think it's definitely a good flyer pick for sure. And then for me, my last one, which I think is pleased about, is Jalen Hyatt for the Giants, and a little bit of a later round pick out of Tennessee. I think there was a little bit of hesitancy because, Tennessee literally was like definitionally a Mickey Mouse offense. It was literally snap the ball and run straight. But Hyatt, for his size, is like, well, I think it'd be a great. I think he can both be a good slot player and do the field stretching stuff because he's really fast.
He's been doing it in camp. Dickie's or Dan. Sorry, these are like my boyfriends and my nicknames for these players. Daniel Jones has been throwing deep passes to him, and he's been catching them in the end zone.
And I think size has been a little bit of a concern because he's a little slight weight wise, but he's really fast, and I still think he can definitely field stretch. And I think I'm certain Brian Daboll will see that in him and be able to utilize him both in short yardage situations, but also for a few home run passes from Jones as well. So I think he would definitely be a good maybe like 3 or 4 wide receiver option, or like a lower level bench piece just to have potentially if you need somebody for a bye or something.
He's been impressing in camp, and a great rule of thumb is when you get these guys, the coaching staffs that draft them are invested in featuring them.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Fantasy tips: bet on high octane offenses. Bet on players that the regime is invested in developing.
Smart play callers too.
Smart play callers.
Daboll, Mike Kafka.
And then also some teams that like don't have shutdown defenses. Although, who knows? I mean, does those even exist right now in this NFL, in this like pro?
I mean, I think the closest
scheme?
Ones would be like the Niners and the Eagles, maybe. But the Eagles defense just got shredded in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard, right? I mean, everything's so tilted towards the offense now. So
because of Swaggy JG, who's now in Arizona.
Oh my god, who didn't prepare for like any kinds of motions that involve
or like
Chiefs receivers.
How clear the tells were for their linebackers being like, oh, they're going in motion. Let me run to the farthest side of the field before the guy even snaps the ball.
Unreal.
Poor Avonte Maddox. That wasn't even his fault.
No. All right, guys. Gonna wrap up, read some IMs, and get out of here.
Oh, can I just do a few before we go? Can I just do a few players that I'm just excited for outside of fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
Anton Harrison for the Jags. Looking forward to see how he is at left tackle potentially for the Jags, because I think the Jags are going to be really good this year, and I think it'll hinge upon like good starting line play from a young guy like him now that Jawan Taylor is on the Chiefs. I know you were telling me that
who's their tackle that just got suspended for PEDs?
Cam Robinson.
Yeah.
I was telling you we were discussing Deontay Banks, the corner pick for the Giants, but you were saying another guy was even supplanting Banks in camp. Even though I love Banks,
Trey Hawkins,
like size, speed, and aggressiveness. But that's interesting. That's what I think we were saying we love about camp is that training camp shows too, like guys who might be flourishing, just actually like seeing them in pads as opposed to just the number of where they were drafted or whether they were not drafted. You know, you'll usually actually see kind of the separating the wheat from the chaff regardless of draft standing.
Look, Deontay will be fine. It's just an interesting, the fact that this guy at Old Dominion's doing well is good.
And I'm excited for all of the slot receivers that were taken in the late rounds, like Zay Flowers for the Ravens, Jordan Addison for the Vikings, Jackson Smith and Jigba for the Seahawks. I'm excited to see how all of them play. I'm nervous to see how Quentin Johnston plays, and I want him to be really good for Justin Herbert and the Chargers. So we'll see. And then the one other guy I just wanted to mention is I'm excited to watch two of the big boys, Mozzie Smith for the Cowboys, be the big run stuffing defensive tackle, and Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin, who I just forgot where he was drafted, but I really am excited to watch him play because he's for a guy who moves like him is really crazy to watch. He got drafted by the Steelers, who I think will be great for him.
Oh, well, they have
nose tackle for the Steelers, a guy who's 6'4", 309 and can really run. I'm excited to see him.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
They need some help on their interior. So, the Steelers, their interior defensive line.
And now they have Highsmith and TJ Watt kind of in the fold. I think it'll be fun to watch that.
Yeah, it's just like Cam Hayward's not getting any younger, so they need to get a little bit younger, more rotation in there.
I'm like sneaky excited for the Steelers.
Of course, I think the Steelers are good every year. It's just a question of how good.
I think like the way they've tooled the defense and how this offense will be now with like year 2 for Pickett. I'm cautiously optimistic for them.
They have talent on offense. I mean, George Pickens, some of that footage from camp. Oh boy.
Oh, I mean, the catches that guy can make is unbelievable.
He's a stud.
And also, of course, it's almost been played to death at this point, but like. He has that dog in him.
Oh, he has that
like,
dog
it's
in him.
In there.
Oh,
you know it's in there.
Oh, yeah.
That guy is a killer.
Oh, yeah.
That guy he has the tenacity and like the way he backs it up by being like, yeah, I can catch that ball out of thin air.
Oh yeah.
With massive amounts of pass interference on me while I'm doing it.
He had some quote earlier, like last week or something, I'm forgetting, where he had that dog in him, but We'll chat about that at another point. All right, reading some IMs, then we're going to get out of here. The AC is somehow petering out once again,
Yeah,
so
we're
I'm struggling slightly.
Like Matt says, we're still in the Sisyphean stage. Of
Yes.
pushing that boulder up a hill.
Kowalski says, the 1 year anniversary of your show is approaching. You guys need a gift. I'm thinking a cheese platter. Kowalski, don't you dare. And you've already gotten us enough. No gifts.
Send me cheese, though, Kowalski.
Okay, perhaps. Majority Report wardrobe coordinator. Holy shit, I can't wait for football. Let's go Lions. I know I can't wait either. Floyd the
Sorry
Barber.
that we're fading the Lions, though, by the way. Sorry. Apologies to you.
Floyd the Barber. Laporta was like 40% of Iowa's anemic offense last year. I think he had about 500 yards receiving. I say this as a jaded Iowa alum. Gotcha. Mind Pillow Guy. My favorite thing about quarterback was trying to spot Jackson Mahomes in the background and laughing at everyone pretend like he wasn't there.
Oh, they very intentionally were like, we are not listing this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
We got Randy Mahomes' mom. We got Patrick. We got Pat Senior. We got Brittany. Like we got everyone in the family basically except. We got Mahomes' younger stepsister.
Uh-huh.
Who was like 11 or 12. Just no Jackson.
Oh, that's who that little girl was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was wondering.
His mom's daughter, who's like 12 or 13. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was wondering who that was. Pat Mahomes Sr., cool guy.
Oh, love him. I just
when he said, "I've never seen anything like you." Or whatever, I got choked up. Yeah. Could you imagine? I mean, that must be for Mahomes, like
just everything.
Yeah. Exactly.
Your role model, like validating you like that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
How do you not get romantic about sports? No. Lint Liquor says Kirk Cousins has a long history of being close friends with Republican Congressman Bill Huizenga to the point where he would invite Kirk to tour the Capitol and would talk to John Boehner and even propose his Duggar-coated wife in the Speaker of the House's office.
Oh, interesting. Huizenga is a with all due respect, is a freak. He's a freak.
What do you mean all due respect?
He's a freak to our sworn in members of Congress. He is a Freedom Caucus nut job.
Oh yeah. No respect given. Niall from Trinidad. Lindsey Horan said at previous podcast, American style of football athleticism in comparison to the European style that focuses on playing possession, valving the ball. If you're not stringing together 5 or 6 passes, almost considered a failure. Coaching is another issue. Coaching is being influenced. Big clubs, Chelsea, Barcelona, Wolfsburg, Lyon, and men's clubs, Federation are taking notice and implementing strategies and tactics. Dan from Columbus, we know that conservatives are full of BS and just being anti-trans when they cry about the sanctity of women's sports, but they really take the mask off when they crap on the U.S. women's national team. That's a great point. Should have pointed that out earlier. Soaked and Woke, I thought these guys wanted to protect women's sports and women's athletes. Yes. Shawis, it's worth pointing out that the Benny Johnson tweet, he also said it was a free kick instead of a penalty kick.
Right, that was also not correct.
Correction on it. He doubled down and gloated about his ignorance of soccer, making him more American. These F-wits don't even know what they hate. Tom Lofink, happy Monday. In rugby, the warm-up games for the Men's Rugby World Cup have started. On Sunday, my team Wales beat England at home 20-9. Could I call in to talk about the Men's Rugby World Cup in the next couple of weeks? Call next week when we take some calls. Polly Saigai, 1123. What's your stance on the running back market and the fact that there is a salary cap in the NFL? Who deserves to not get paid? The tackles, the line, the kicker. They should all get as much money as they can. There's simply a finite amount in the salary cap system. Should the NFL go to a luxury tax system like the MLB? I would be in favor of that. I think there should be some sort of
there's enough.
cap
I think there's enough money
for there's enough money.
There's enough money, and I agree. I don't think the
maybe
salary
for
cap
quarterbacks or something
luxury tax model would be that bad.
Yeah, I agree. You could have a luxury quarterback tax or something like that. I don't know.
Sorry, also just a correction. Bill Huizenga is not actually in the Freedom Caucus, but he is in that job.
Okay, I mean...
We regret the error.
But again, it's getting hot in here, okay? In the final IM of the day...
The temperature's creeping up.
The walls are closing in. Left field is best. Hey, great show today. Please look out for a call from a 919 number next week. I want to call in to go into detail about the labor crisis in the UFC. It's a situation so dire it could warrant an MR episode. Great. Will do. Appreciate you all. We will see you next Monday. Thank you guys so much. Rate us 5 stars. Like the stream. Comment below if you have any thoughts. We will see you all on Monday.
Bye-bye.